expensive.
Oh, yeah.
I think the GIFs are lagging. That's what it's lagging.
So, yeah, back
Okay.
out of that.
Drop frames, yeah. Um, any games you want to wait in line for?
I definitely want to see what Bethesda has, because I'm hoping that they've got some information on the new Elder Scrolls online game. Double Fine's going to be there, so I want to try and sneak to their booth and see if they have any information on the Double Fine adventure, because I believe that's supposed to be out sometime soon. It's been in production for about a year now with $2 million, so they should be pretty close to getting done.
Yeah.
Trying to think of some other ones. I'd like to see if Sony has anything for the PlayStation 4. I highly doubt they will, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like in yesteryear, previous years, PAX wasn't really the place to make announcements, but it's becoming more of one. I mean, the Capcom thing is like a huge deal.
Yes.
I think. Like, last year at PAX, there were like a couple small announcements, but nobody did anything that big.
I think it's one of those things that PAX East is kind of becoming the public convention that happens before E3. There's really not a lot other than GDC, which I think's either happening this weekend or next weekend, like they're back to back. There's really nothing else between now and E3, so this is kind of companies' last chance to kind of show their product before it's the big reveal day. So definitely a very good way to start building up the hype, which is why I think we're starting to see some of these announcements. This can be building up to something bigger when E3 finally hits.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, E3, I mean, you said it yourself, E3 is kind of disappointed the last couple times. Did you say that? Someone else said
Yeah, I think I've said it before.
Yeah.
Ever since I tried, like, toning it down and, like, changing it and trying to go back to what it was, it's just, it hasn't been the same.
I've been told that PAX is far larger than E3. Not in terms of, like, impact, but just in terms of people going to it because it's public.
Yeah.
And PAX Prime is apparently the biggest gaming convention in the world, if we go by that size. Or it's up there with that and the Tokyo Game Show, I think. They're kind of on par with each
I
other.
could have sworn that the lipstick one from Germany is also pretty high up there,
That's up there too.
attendance-wise.
Yeah. It's basically those three, which kind of blew my mind since I always thought, E3 was like the premier worldwide hype one.
Well, now the way that the industry's been changing so much with, companies being able to publicly stream their conferences, the need to have a big press showing at conventions isn't quite as dire as before. It's because now they can still bring in, the VIP press, the people are going to get their information out there, but they can still show it publicly without having to spend a bunch of money on travel and a bunch of money to rent out a convention center room or whatever it is they have to do for their announcements. So I think a lot of companies just now are going more that route because even we're seeing a lot more systems being announced just randomly throughout the year instead of at these conferences. Like look at the Wii U and the Wii. They hinted that off right about E3, but I think it was right around the Tokyo Game Show that they finally showed the system itself.
That was true for the Wii's controller. For the Wii U, it was February 2011, I want to say. And then they showed it at E3. In fact, they had they'll have had 3 E3s all to their own next generation console before Microsoft and Sony launched theirs, which is kind of stunning. And it's also kind of sad because the Wii wasn't the clear winner for the previous 2 E3s it's been at. Even though the first one was its debut showing, and the second one was the unveiling of a lot of games, launch info and stuff. So it's kind of sad. I mean, they're going to have to bring it this E3, definitely. I mean, the sales are so bad right now, it's kind of sad.
I'm sure we'll see some Wii U stuff tomorrow at the Nintendo booth.
Well, they did announce Deus Ex, and that's going to be playable. I might try and get my hands on that. I hope it's... I think it was leaked that it's $50, which is better than $60, obviously, but when you can get the original on Steam for $10 or whatever.
Yeah, very cheaply.
I mean, it does include all the DLC, And in the graphics, they say have been redone, but we'll let Digital Foundry be the judges of
Yeah,
that.
and there's definitely going to be some sort of gamepad implementation. I think just the whole problem with the Wii U right now is, one, the price is a little bit high for people, especially when you compare it to the current 360 and the PlayStation 3, $299. You can get either 250 gig,
Right.
360, or a 250 to 500 gig PlayStation 3.
Side note on that,
Already.
it's kind of weird because we're so late in the generation, but those prices are still kind of high. Like
Mm-hmm.
300, that's kind of what the original PS2 launched at.
Yeah.
And I think with the Super Slim, Sony actually increased the price. So the PS3 Slim was like, I forget, like
They,
250.
they had two bundles available. There was one that was a 250 gig for $269, and then they had a 500 gig for $299.
And then when the Super Slim released, they put the prices up by $20 or something, which is apparently a better deal because you get maybe like one more game out of it.
You get like 3 games and a year PlayStation Plus,
Right.
which is a pretty good deal.
But it's still kind of like the prices are increasing, you know?
That's the whole reason why the Vita is just done so horribly. It's the price of a home console.
Yeah.
Who's going to go out and buy a handheld system for the same price that they could buy a system for their house or a decent laptop?
Yeah, and it's not just the Vita's fault. Any handheld for that price, I mean, the 3DS proved nobody's going to buy a handheld at $250. So Nintendo realized that and they cut the price a couple months after launch, which is worked out because did you get a 3DSM with that or before the price cut?
I got it, I think, after the price cut.
Right. You don't have any Ambassador games.
No, I bought mine used.
I got my XL last August, right after it came out. But yeah, it was, I think the XL was 200.
Yeah, it's 200. It still is 200, but
200 is not bad for the XL, I don't think.
for what it can do,
It could be lower, I guess. Everything could be lower. Why am I off screen? Here I am.
just the whole price of stuff in general has been increasing. There's rumors going around now saying that PlayStation 4 and the next 360 games are going to be $70. That seems very, very high for entertainment.
I think that's mostly, isn't that like EA saying that?
I don't know. I think that Patcher was analyzing or expecting
Pactor.
which, probably not true, but at the same time, a possibility. So we are seeing a lot more games now, still releasing at $60, but then having a $20 season pass to add to it for all the extra DLC and content. When you add all the extra DLC, you end up paying, $80, $90, $100 to get everything in one game. So I think that we might see a small price jump in a couple of the games, but hopefully they're going to include that DLC or that, season pass instead of having it be something separate.
What was his name? Christian? Or the guy that came with you when we went to dinner? He was saying that one of his favorite Gears multiplayer modes was extra DLC.
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, that the executions, the key, like, the word just slipped my mind. The trademark kill is something you have to pay for. The executions aren't free with the game. You have to buy the DLC separately to execute someone in the multiplayer.
I mean, we're seeing a lot more mobile conventions be adapted to, like, free-to-play social game kind of nickel and diming be applied to gaming. But it's kind of like, as dev costs rise, it's kind of like less risks are taken, more monetization happens. But that's kind of obvious, I think. Kind of inevitable.
Yeah, which is, sad because it's killing off creativity, and we're getting such generic games now that it's really going to start turning away some people. Every year Call of Duty's consistently increased the number of people, but there's also, on the flip side, been a number of people that have just grown tired of it and just lose interest in it. something that's kind of starting to happen with the new Assassin's Creed. It has barely even been a year since the last one came out, and there's already people already turning their noses down to the fourth one because it's only been, 8 months?
It's, well, since the last one released was November, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it's been, like, they announced it like 4 months after the last one was released. And I've seen commercials for it already. I think...
Yeah, it comes out this October.
What is the point of that? And then, Ubisoft goes on to claim they have like 800 or whatever people working on it. And, in previous generations, because it's a bunch of different teams. It's like Ubisoft Montpellier, Ubisoft Quebec, or...
And I think they just opened up like a new studio with the whole THQ closed out. I think they hired a couple people or something.
Well, all these studios, in like past generations, they'd all be working on their own games. Now they're all working on this guaranteed seller, just to ensure they all have a guaranteed hit. And then, of course, they're all going to get laid off or something horrible, probably. Seems the part of the course, the industry.
Sadly, yeah, THQ went down. Who was that other company that worked on Kingdoms of Amalur? Is that big something?
Oh, they were based here in Boston. Studio 38?
I think that sounds right. I know it was Studio some number.
There is a panel being held by some of those people, I think, which might be interesting to go to. I'll have to look it up.
But yeah, they went under, THQ went under. Epic Games opened a new studio and closed it within 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
It's just...
Eurocom. I know some people were posting on the forums. They were sad about that one.
And didn't someone else have a huge layoff? Like, I'm trying to think of who it was. I think Activision had a pretty big layoff within the past couple weeks.
I know a while ago they killed off Red Octane, I think, who were behind Guitar Hero. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, but I think I remember reading then there was a pretty big layoff. Because they said something about only having a small team that was still working on the last bit of Call of Duty DLC, but they just didn't need the staff. So we're seeing all these studios invest all this money on these giant, huge projects and just kind of shooting themselves in the foot with it because there is no diversity, there is no creativity, there's nothing innovative going on, so people are just losing interest.
And when a game with that many developers on it fails to sell like 5 million, I mean, at the beginning of this gen, the minimum for a AAA game to break even was like 1 million copies or something, and you kind of get laughed off if you only sell 1 million copies today. It kind of blows my mind, because 1 million blew my mind back when the generation started. I was like, people are complaining about getting 800,000, 700,000 in sales. That's a lot, but not enough to sustain these 500-person teams.
Especially when they're pumping in so much money into their products, which, yes, gamers expect high quality of graphics, but everything doesn't have to just be about how it looks.
Well, the problem with graphics is that the capabilities of the consoles are going to get exponentially more powerful, but the efficiency of like a graphical artist making the textures and the high resolution models and whatever, they only progress linearly. So it's a straight line. You have to hire 2 people to do, or 3 people to do 3 times more the work. Whereas with graphics, they're exponential. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's going to be at least 2.5, if not 3 years into the next generation cycle before we'll see true next generation graphics. Because of that leaps and bounds that the artists themselves are going to have to do and understand exactly how the technology works. Unless you're David Cage, then apparently you just produce lifelike people just from taking a shit.
Are you talking about Kara?
Yeah, and did you watch the Sony conference, didn't you?
The PS4 one?
Yes.
Like at the middle of it.
Okay, but they also showed...
that was a long conference.
They also showed a resolution sample of this old guy's head that's
Oh,
supposed
I
to be
did see
running
that.
on the next technology for the PlayStation 4.
And now some people are debating whether the Joachim dude from Phantom Pain, the bandaged guy,
Mm-hmm.
he had an he had an interview with who's that guy? Game Trailers, Jeff Keighley, and some people think he was pure CG in that interview. I think it was a real person, but it does make you think. What if we're approaching this point where graphics are basically real? I mean, that would take. I don't know how Watch Dogs is doing it, because that seems like that game came out of nowhere. It's a new IP. It's open world, which open world games take a lot more
And it will be
development
on the
effort.
floor.
That too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for next-gen consoles. I mean, it's kind of like, it's cross-gen. So maybe that's helping them with the technology. I'm not exactly sure how that works. Maybe I should try that tomorrow. Or Saturday. Yeah, I might wait in line for that one. I didn't wait in line for any games last year. The only game I played actually was Spirit Camera. I just walked up to the
Yeah,
demo.
I played it there too.
Yeah.
That and Kid Icarus.
Right. I still have to buy that, but they haven't put it on the eShop.
It's not that good of a game. Don't waste your money.
I've heard the exact opposite from like everybody else.
They're stupid. Don't listen to them.
Yeah.
The controls are just awkward anyway. But I think we're reaching this point to where, honestly, I think we need to tone the graphics down a little bit. I mean, there is such a line, such a spot where things seem a little bit too real,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. Not necessarily that, it's going to make everyone violent or anything like that if it's in a violent game or anything like that. But just, I think there's a line that we shouldn't cross.
I don't think that. I just think...
I think it starts to look weird. Like, especially some of the games nowadays that even have really high graphics, they still have some very weird, like, animations that seem really out of place. Like, the way the characters walk, the hands are kind of stiff and at the side, and they kind of walk with this kind of, like, motion to it. It just makes this very uncanny appearance. And I think that if we continue to progress in this direction of trying to go for super high realism, if we don't improve the small fine-tuned things, everything's just going to look very awkward.
It's always going to come down to the artists and their artistic interpretation. Like I saw, there's some game, I think it's Beyond Two Souls, that has Willem Dafoe's character model. And I didn't think it looked like Uncanny Valley, but it obviously wasn't real either. I don't think we should stop pushing the graphics forward. I just think our current trajectory is everything is going to become so narrow, so homogenized. It's good. It's going to burn people out of the industry. We're going to lose like programmers and artists to other industries like film or whatever. But on the flip side, indies have never been bigger.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I think what's going to happen is we're going to see this kind of soft reboot of the industry where teams of indies start getting together to make larger scale indie games, and these larger scale indie games would be about on par with what you would expect from like PS1 games.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the EAs are going to keep pushing, these super high resolution graphics out there, but they're going to push basically everybody out of the market. Everybody else is probably going to go under, and the employees will become indies or burn out of the industry.
People are kind of letting art and creativity die a little bit from just going for the super like realistic. Like I remember reading last week that Disney announced that they were no longer going to do any 2D hand-drawn animations. Everything was going to be through Pixar and going to be the 3D animation, which, while that looks really good, the magic and the charm of that type of art style or just other art styles in general is completely being lost, which is, I think, kind of sad.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. From what I understand, Princess and the Frog didn't work out for them like they hoped. I don't think that's going to stay the way forever. I think they made a similar proclamation in the early 2000s, which did hold true for a while. And then they came out with Princess and the Frog, which burned them
Yeah, I
out
mean,
of it.
they obviously said that, the animation wasn't, like, dead permanently. Like, they would never
Mm-hmm.
do it again. But just, from here on in, they were only really looking at 3D. And the same thing kind of applies to games. We're not seeing, other than Killer is Dead, but that's just Suda being Suda, being pretty much the only cel-shaded game next to the Wind Waker remake.
Those graphics look, not the Wind Waker graphics, those look weirdly saturated. Um, but the Killer's Dead graphics, I posted the thread on it. They look insane.
Yeah, it's very Scanner Darkly, which is what I like, and that'd be a really interesting art style to see. Like all of their promo posters and stuff that I've seen for GTA are kind of in that same art
Mm-hmm.
style, and I would love to see a game fully, completely in that. That it's got this kind of realistic look to it, but yet it's still animated.
Right, right. Yeah, that would be great.
But we're not really seeing any of these developers take any of these risks, taking any of these chances, trying to find any sort of new art styles or anything that kind of defines them because, Killer is Dead is pretty
Mm-hmm.
much Suda's trademark art. It's very
Mm-hmm.
similar to the way Killer 7 and No More Heroes looked, which they kind of lost a little bit when they stepped away to do Shadows to the Damned, which was still really good,
Mm-hmm.
and Lollipop Chainsaw, which was kind of But now it's good to kind of see a Suda 51 game be a Suda 51 game,
Mm-hmm.
and he's kind of the only developer now that kind of does that.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, we do see, to bring up indies again, we do see indies innovating with graphical art styles, obviously, like, I mean, a lot of them go for the pixel look, um, but there's still innovation in that, like Fez, for instance, you turn the perspective, which Super Paper Mario did, but anyways, um, and Minecraft, voxels were kind of like, you'd say voxel and people would be like, what the hell is that? Um, but now Minecraft has brought voxels back. Um, I don't know. I just see um, because the decisions about the creative art style, those are made at a top-down level, I think. So the company says we're going to greenlight your game or not based on your presentation to us. You can't. Okay, here's this super wacky art style. Okay, we can't sell that, so redo it into this gritty art style or whatever. Or they cancel it altogether. Even getting to that point is pretty tough. They have to put together demos and stuff. I'm gonna ask Jules tomorrow about that. I love his blog posts. Jules, watch him. He has blog posts, video blogs. Um, really insightful. What was I saying? Something about art styles.
And I hear it's pretty difficult for indie developers to really get anywhere in the industry. Like, that's part of the reason why BattleBlock Theater has taken this long to come out is last year whenever I had an interview with Behemoth, they just kind of briefly talked about how difficult it is to get approval on Xbox Live.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many requirements that you have to meet with like the size of your game and the features that it can have and that it can't have and
Mm-hmm.
that it needs to have and how many achievements you can have and what the scores of each one is.
Well, the Phil Fish, the Fez guy, he said he made a big deal a while back that Fez shipped on Xbox Live with a broken save state feature or something, and he has a patch to fix it, but it costs $10,000 for Microsoft to recertify it and test it and push it out through. So I think that's going to have to change. Obviously, from what I hear, Nintendo is a bit more friendly about things. Again, going back to the Jules example, he said it was. I mean, he loves self-publishing. I don't think there's very many associated fees on the eShop, at least. Um, the ESRB has also changed a lot in the past couple of years. It used to be you had to pay thousands of dollars to get your game rated, and you had to wait a while. He said it's free for indies now, and he got his rating like 7 minutes after he sent the whatever email to them back. So that's changing a lot. But the European boards are basically like ESRB was, so it takes a while for them, and they cost money. But the the barrier to entries needs to be less. And the problem is that when the video game industry crashed in the late 80s, it was because there wasn't any quality control. So today we're making fun of Microsoft for not allowing this patch to go out and wasting all this money and resources on it. But back in the day, the lack of that is what contributed to this glut of awful games and buggy games that killed the industry. So it's kind of weird how things have tipped completely the other way, I think.
Yeah, if they're too strict. We definitely need to find that balance, which is going to be very difficult because large companies like EA and Activision and Ubisoft aren't going to want to take those risks. They don't want to see those profit losses. But at the same time, we're not letting there be any emerging business by having this long criteria of things that you have to meet to just get your game out there.
Yeah, that's why I think that's the biggest reason why iOS and Android are hot, is because development is so open and easy, relatively. I mean, Apple compared to Google in this area is still super locked down, obviously, but they're still a lot more free or open than the console makers are. So to develop an app for the iPhone, you have to have a Mac, which most of these developers already do. You have to pay $100 a year for the iPhone subscribers club or whatever. You have to have an iPhone, obviously, and that's about it. And you have to submit your app to the App Store to get approved, and all patches as well. But they don't cert, which is basically the gaming industry lingo for put through a bunch of QA people to make sure it doesn't crash in this weird edge case or whatever. Apple doesn't really care about that as much. I mean, they still do like light tests to make sure it doesn't crash when you start it or delete all your contacts or whatever. They're not as thorough. And Android, obviously, no barrier to entry there. You can develop on Mac, Linux, or PC. SDK is free. Publishing to the App Store is one-time fee of $25. And you don't even need an Android phone since the emulator is an Android system image. So unlike the iPhone simulator, it actually is completely accurate to what a normal device will function like. But whereas in the console space, you have to have, $20,000, $30,000 dev kit. You have to have a game engine, because you don't really need a game engine on a mobile. I mean, you can. They're out there.
But for anything else, you're going to need an engine.
But I mean, like third-party engines like Unreal or Unity or whatever. You need one of those. You need your own QA testers. You need to. It takes like 6 weeks to hear back from the console maker on when the app is going to be released. So there's a lot of barriers to entry, I feel like. Nintendo recently removed one of the bigger ones, and that's that you had to be incorporated and hold an office space. They implemented that so that people couldn't break into somebody's house and steal the dev kit, leak trade secrets or whatever. So they got rid of that. They partnered with Unity now, so one of the versions of Unity comes free with the dev kit, but developers still have to pay for the dev kit and get approved to be able to pay for the dev kit. So that's still a barrier to entry. So it's going to see... I see consoles getting more close to smartphones faster than smartphones can get close to PCs, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
And the PC's just going to kind of stay where it is, because it's pretty easy to develop almost anything on a PC.
Except for Windows 8, which is... Gabe Newell is kind of mad about that.
Yeah.
But,
well, we all know the Windows cycle.
Well, yeah, we'll see what happens with the next release of Windows.
The next one will be fantastic. This is kind of just how it goes.
Yeah.
This is kind of why I'm looking at just investing in a high-ended PC going into later this year, early next year, over buying new systems. Is I don't really see any of the new systems having any feature that's going to make me automatically want it. Like even with the PlayStation 4, the touchscreen and the controller, that's a cool idea, but something I really don't need. So I really don't want to pay $400, $500, $600, however much it's going to be for something like that.
Yeah, they didn't do a good job of selling the touchscreen on the controller, I thought. Maybe they're saving that for E3. Hopefully we won't get another tacked-on layer demo. Remember E3 2006? He was like...
Yeah, it was Wax, wasn't it? In a bathtub?
No, that was something else. They brought the Factor 5 guys out, and they're like, yes, the DualShock is so... It wasn't the DualShock. 6-axis. 6-axis is so awesome. Rumble sucks. You can do all this accelerometer stuff. And they show this dragon, like, crashing into the sides of, like, castles or something. It was awful.
Yeah, it's for Lear, which sucked. Lear was a horrible game.
Did you buy it?
No.
I kind of always wanted to play that.
No, you don't. So I think we pretty much agreed no concerts this year. It's the same performers from last year, which while good, and if you haven't seen them, please go and at least experience it at least once. But I think this year I'm going to kind of lay low, partly because of the travel to get from where I'm staying to the convention. And also just networking. I think I'm going to really spend this PAX East networking and trying to get to more meetups and kind of meet other people in the industry.
Yeah. I mean, last year it felt like both of us were trying to... Well, it was both of our first PAXs. So we were on the show floor a lot. I tried going to panels, but there weren't many that interested me. Whereas this year I find there's like 10 or something I would be interested in going to. It's a little weird. Like last year, I was so bored at one point. I went to one about raising your child and giving them the game at right time, even though I'm not a parent, obviously, that I know of. But yeah, there's a lot of ones this year. Which ones are you going to?
The World of Capcom one's the only one that I know for a fact I'm definitely going to. Really haven't looked at any of the other ones due to other engagements that I currently have. I know there's a couple after the convention closes that might be worth going to for something to do. But again, I think I'm going to instead try to do a couple meetups.
Yeah. The problem with the concerts is they go on for so long. And they're so late. Although you did say you wanted to do the Minecraft movie, right?
Yeah, and that's what?
I think that's at like
Saturday?
10 p.m. Saturday. So, I don't know. I thought it stuck out to me. So I was like, hey, why don't we do the Minecraft movie?
I think The Escapist also has a movie night.
Do they?
But I haven't really followed any of their stuff, so...
I noticed you didn't seem as keen to go to the Mega 64 panel.
I think that's because it happened at a time that I have something else going on.
It's at 7:30 tomorrow?
Oh yeah, because they've got that press floor that's open after hours. That networking thing that I'll be at.
Oh, I wanted you to go there again. That was so much fun last year.
That was.
That's probably the best panel last year. I went to the Giant Bomb panel too. I think it was partly ruined because I sat so far back. I mean, the line was freaking long. Extra credits. Is that what you're talking about?
No. I could have sworn they just had like a normal movie night, like whoever their movie panelist is. Yeah, there's quite a few interesting things.
Oh, right. You wanted to go to the NVIDIA one, didn't you? Or you had a interview with NVIDIA.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. 38 Studios. That's what it was. Indie Studios founded by... See, this is what I see happening. One of the panels is called After the Endgame, Indie Studios founded by 38 Studios alumni. And they did Kingdom of
Amalur.
Whatever that's called. It was... I mean, Kurt Schilling was like the major investor, right? It's founded here in Boston. And this is what I see happening. I see these traditional gaming studios, mid-size, not able to keep up with like the 500-person studios. They put out a pretty good game, but it bombs because it's not AAA. And then I see it like splintering into much smaller indie studios.
Well, part of what happened with them is there was something with taxes. Like, I think they were told that if they had a studio here, they could get some sort of, like, tax cut.
They got a major tax break.
But then, like, something happened with that. They ended up not getting it, and they owed money. Then, of course, they couldn't pay because they didn't earn as much from Kingdoms.
Game Sutra had a very good article about them. I'll link it to you. But it just, and by the end of that article, you feel really bad for Schilling. What ended up happening is he got his brother-in-law, I want to say, to like run the accounting, and long story short, it didn't work out, obviously. And he let his brother-in-law basically do the accounting unsupervised, and that's why a lot of people like to beat up on Schilling. But you feel really bad for Schilling by the end of the article. It's like it chronicles him like sitting down, like just worn out, defeated at like his daughter's soccer game or something, and you're just like, oh man, that sucks. Perfect story for you. You'd love it.
Oh yeah, I hate
human suffering.
That'd be nice.
I think that's pretty much PAX East Day 1. Think we'll be able to do one tomorrow?
We can try and wait and see how tired we are.
When is the press thing tomorrow night the last thing you're doing?
Yeah, because it opens up when the public show floor closes at 6, and then we have a run of it until 8.
Okay, so we'll probably be back here after that.
Yeah. Unless we get invited to anything, which would be cool.
We might be too tired to do stuff. I'm not ruling that out. Oh, tomorrow's also G-Form streams anyways. I wonder if we could take a slot of that. Well, we'll have to figure it out.
We'll wait and see how it goes.
I don't want to interrupt anybody's stream anyways. I was planning on doing a live stream at 3:30 every day. Just like show the floor, show the lines and whatnot. Talk with us. And then rerun that at like 11 on the streams night. We'll see how it goes. I mean, the main thing this year is last year I felt like I didn't do enough.
Yeah, exactly. I felt very unprofessional, unorganized, really didn't know what I was doing. So this year I actually have business cards, and I've actually taken the time to kind of contact people beforehand. So it should all be much better.
I've been talking with Jules on Twitter. Oh man, you've got to get in line to play his FPS. For some reason, I just have a feeling you'd like it. Like he said, fans of Dimension would like it, and you were the only person, other than me on G4, who was excited for Dimension.
It was a nice first-person horror game.
Yeah.
I was very surprised by the atmosphere it had for being a handheld, because that was kind of like the first handheld horror game. And then it kind of branched off into Revelations and like Spirit Camera and stuff.
And I mean, it was kind of a repetitive game. The first one was, which I don't know what I prefer. 'Cause I don't know if you played the second game, Dimension 2.
I have not.
Okay, that game is a lot more varied. Like has a lot more locations and like puzzles and stuff. But it's a lot shorter too. So it's kind of weird. You get this. The first game is kind of padded out because you have these floors of the hospital, but like almost all the rooms are empty. But you could argue that adds to the atmosphere, and I felt it was kind of repetitive because it had the same kind of enemy types and the same kind of puzzles. But I really loved the atmosphere in that game. The reason I was so excited for it is because I loved the asylum setting for horror stuff. Like Session 9. I think I made a thread about this.
Yeah, Session 9 was a really good movie.
Session 9 was so good, but it wasn't... I don't know if I should... I'll do a light spoiler. Cover yours if you don't want to hear it.
If you don't want to hear stuff now.
Yeah. It wasn't a supernatural horror. It was more like... It didn't turn out to be a supernatural horror. You go through thinking it's a supernatural horror, but it ends up being a psychological thriller almost.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like such a twist, but the whole movie moved with it perfectly, I felt. That was a great movie.
It kind of makes you think how much of it really was really there and how much of it was like his,
Mm-hmm.
again, spoilers, don't listen, his like hallucinations as he descends into
Mm-hmm.
madness.
And you don't even realize he's descending into madness until like the final reveal, where you find out he tells super spoilers. He tells
Horatio Kane.
yeah, David Crusoe, David Crusoe's character, um, that he slapped his wife one of these days, and he hasn't gone back to his house since then. Um, he's torn up about it, and Horatio's like, you got to deal with that. Then you find out later on that he didn't slap his wife. He killed his wife, and he killed his baby, and that's why he hasn't been back to his house, and why he's feeling super guilty. Ends up killing everybody else.
And the whole time, it kind of builds up this. Yeah, at first you kind of feel bad for the guy, and then you realize that he's a fucked up murderer, because there's a couple of scenes where he's like talking on the phone about how like sorry he is, and once you find out what really happens, you go back and you look at those scenes and think he's probably talking to no one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is talking to no one, and like when he says, I've slapped my wife, you're like, you're a douchebag, but I feel really bad for you.
And they have that scene with him sitting in the van outside the house with like the chocolate and the flowers to apologize, and it kind of plays the audio of what happened, and like hot water, falls on him, which you kind of still think he's an asshole douchebag, but at the same time, it's kind of pretty much what anyone would do.
Right.
Not saying that you'd go and you hit your spouse, but just that kind of initial adrenaline reaction.
Right. You can see how it's understandable, even if it still is a horrible, horrible thing to do. But you still feel like something is not right. Like that's where the movie kind of takes a turn, where you're like, something isn't right here. Some perception is off here. Anyways, movie cast.
Did you ever see Shutter Island then?
No, I haven't.
Like
I haven't, and it's because I think I was spoiled on it, maybe. Okay, here's the spoiler I heard. It was all in his head. Is it still worth watching, even knowing that?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, it's very elaborate.
Okay. Okay, I'll put that on my list then. What movie did Session 9 reminded me of? The Machinist.
I don't think I've seen that.
It had Christian Bale in it. Maybe it wasn't The Machinist. I get some...
You mean American Psycho?
No.
Oh.
It was The Machinist. It's the one where he's like 90 pounds. So he plays... I'm probably going to get into spoilers here too. I think Ryan recommended this movie for me. It was awesome. Thank you, Ryan. He plays this dude who works at like this metal thing. He's a machinist. And he's like emaciated. And he has... It's very weird. I don't want to spoil it for you. I don't even know if I could explain it correctly that you understand, but it has a similar twist like Session 9 does.
Okay.
But it plays with it a lot more. So unlike Session 9, where it's kind of like a straight line towards the end, The Machinist is kind of like you really don't know what's real and what's not. Like Session 9 kind of has some elements of that, but The Machinist is like whole scenes could be made up, if you know what I'm saying.
No, I get that. And Shutter Island's very much like that too.
Okay.
Like Shutter Island was one movie that after I watched it, I watched the like making of featurette that was included on the Blu-ray, and it was just very, very interesting on how they did a lot of the stuff.
What do you mean?
I can't really say.
Oh, like playing with your mind?
Yeah, like little things they would do to purposely fuck with the audience's mind.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely next on my list then. Weren't we talking about games or something?
We were. It's whatever.
So Monster Hunter came out. Steph and I, big fans, Monster Hunter. I have both versions, 3DS and Wii U. She has 3DS, but she's going to get Wii U. So
yep, whenever I fly back.
Yep.
There's no point in buying a console game if I wasn't going to be home.
Right. And I wouldn't have bought the 3DS version except PAX East this week.
Mm-hmm.
But the save app isn't released yet, so, whatever.
Still eventually.
I'm kind of looking forward to playing Luigi's Mansion 2, even though it comes out on Sunday. But I don't want to spoil myself on that because there's very few games where I'll black out from. And I didn't really deliberately black out. It just felt like, okay, I know enough about this game. I know I'm going to buy it and love it, so there's no point in reading everything I can about it. Until the online multiplayer announcement, which is like, holy freaking crap, Like, a Nintendo game with online multiplayer? Get out of here. I think that's why it was delayed. It was originally supposed to come out last year.
Yeah, it was. And then they pushed it to the spring.
I think it's really going to help it. I knew Level 5 was going to do... Level 5? Next Level. Next Level was going to do a great job on it because Mario Strikers was awesome. Battalion Wars was awesome. Their other collaborations with Nintendo have been completely great. Their own games without Nintendo supervision have been iffy. But that's kind of that's how a lot of games end up if you're like a second party.
Unless you're Capcom with Nintendo, then your stuff's just gold.
Right. Well, Capcom was already kind of strong before then. Speaking of Capcom, when I was editing the Gcast last night, there was I spliced in Meet the Cess. There was a line he said. He's like, "We're gonna raise money to track down and execute those bastards who are greenlighting the Mega Man games." And I'm like, oh, he did what he wanted.
He succeeded.
It was kind of ironic. Yeah. Capcom and I used to not be in good terms until they announced Ultimate. And then we're on iffy terms still.
I'm still on iffy terms ever since Resident Evil 4. Still, kind of.
Right, but Revelations HD, we'll try and play tomorrow. Maybe.
Yeah, it should be on the floor. Dragon's Dogma should be on the floor. Most of their stuff's going to be playable, other than probably the new things.
And what do you think they're going to announce?
I know that they showed that Deep Dark at the Sony press conference, which is kind of like another Dragon's Dogma style, Demon Souls kind of style game. So I'm assuming that one of those unannounced titles is really that. Other than that, maybe a new fighting game.
They seem to enjoy pumping those out.
Because I think they just announced like a new Darkstalkers or a remake or something fairly recently. So I'm expecting to see, we might also see Tekken Cross Street Fighter. Because they already had the Street Fighter Cross Tekken, but they're supposed to release a second version of the game that's supposed to play like Tekken.
I thought they already released Tekken X Street Fighter. I thought that was the one they released. Whereas Street Fighter
X Tekken is the one that's out now.
Frickin' fighting games.
So we might see that. We might see another fighting game. We might see, I don't know, maybe something new for once, but I doubt it.
Yeah, companies like to play fast and loose with the new stuff. Actually, it could have been really cool, I think, because I posted a thread on the rumors that companies were going to announce stuff for PAX. There's a lot of companies. Deep Silver was supposed to announce Saints Row 4 at PAX, which would have been awesome. That would have been a new game by anyone's definition, but they probably figured, hey, it's leaked out already, why don't we just announce it? Deus Ex Wii U, Square said, we're announcing a new Wii U game at PAX, and obviously they're not going to now since that new game was Deus Ex. It seems like... I don't think this year was a great year. I think there's like the trial running announcements at PAX.
Yeah.
It feels like next year they're going to take it seriously and there's going to be actual megatons next year.
I'd like to see them do a legit conference.
Right, like a keynote?
Yeah, I like to see developers do keynotes. Because they easily have access to the theaters. Go ahead and make that the Thursday night thing, since most press people fly in Wednesday night, Thursday anyway. Have that kind of be the 8 o'clock, before PAX, even if it's just press only, for a year to kind of trial run it and then do a public one the year after. Or even just have it be in the middle of the day.
I have a feeling though that if they did do a keynote, that it would be mostly Penny Arcade stuff. And no offense to Penny Arcade, but I don't really care about anything they do.
They already have a keynote for Penny Arcade.
They do?
Yeah, it's at noon. I think like on Saturday.
Then what are we talking about?
Like for developers, like all these announcements rather than just saying, okay, here's a trailer, here's a game on the floor, have
some context.
Yeah. Like even if there's just one keynote where everyone just kind of got in the line and just came up and, here's the trailer, here's what we're going to have, it's going to be on the show floor.
That'd be great. That's why I was confused. I was like, if you want all these developers to have their own keynotes, that wouldn't work out, obviously. And I don't think they would agree to having all in one. They kind of want the spotlights to themselves, but I don't know. I think PAX could do it if they really...
At least PAX Prime, maybe, because that's the bigger of the ones.
Mm-hmm. It's the bigger of the ones. Jules said on Twitter, because he was here for PAX last year, but he was part of a panel. He didn't have a booth, and he was here by himself. He said he hated how PAX Prime was laid out. Like, it was so confusing, whereas... the Boston Convention Center is really nice because you basically have like 4 blocks, and you have on the second floor, a walkway all around those blocks. You have escalators to go down to the blocks, and that's where all the games and stuff are. And then it's like cut in 2. So on one side, 2 blocks are
It's
games.
actually cut in 3. There's like there's the main show floor with all the booths and all the games, and then you go into the back part and there's the tabletop stuff, and then if you go to the far side there's nothing but like computers for LANs.
Right.
And where they host all the tournaments.
Yeah.
So it's split off very nicely. It's very organized. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like this giant square circle that you can go through, and all the theaters are attached directly to the convention center.
Right, that's the other thing. The theaters where all the panels are, there's 4 of them, right?
Yeah, there's the Phoenix, the Naga, the
Arachnid. Right. So yeah, they have 4, 1 for each side, basically. It's just very well laid out. Whoever designed the Boston Convention Center did a fantastic job. He was also saying a story about how he's counting his booth at PAX, his first ever gaming booth, even though Renegade Kid had a booth at South by Southwest in like 2011. But he said that was a disaster because back then, and even today, South by Southwest doesn't really focus on games. So he had people walking up to his booth and being like, what do you do? And not like, what games do you make? But like, what's your profession? And he's like, yeah, that wasn't a good investment at all. But I know he's very excited for this year. So I'm excited to see him. Get him to sign my Dimension 2 and get Greg Hardgrove to sign Dimension 1 and 2. Suda's not going to be here, so are you going to have anything signed?
I didn't bring anything with me. Like, I almost brought my copy of Psychonauts to try to get Tim Schafer to sign it, but...
You're one of the 5 people who own Psychonauts.
I know, but I kind of wanted to break away from that tourist attendee, because I was kind of like that last year, which...
Yeah.
Ooh, I kind of regret.
Well... I don't blame you for it.
It turned out nicely, but like I want to have more of this professional appeal because this is a profession, the career that I want to pursue.
Right.
So I'd like to have a nice image.
I think you had to get it out of your system last year. I had to as well.
It was the first time ever being to anything like that. All the excitement, all the energy.
Was that your first gaming convention?
Yes, it was. So a whole new experience.
Yeah. Whereas this year we're kind of, more refined. We're professionals. Well, you are anyways. I'm just some jerk with a website. But yeah, I think we'll be able to play a lot smoother this year. Remember, I'm going to bring my bag this year. I remember last year, I didn't bring my coat, so I had a lot less pockets. And I didn't have a bag with me, so I had to basically subsist on my phone, and that was it, So this year I'm bringing my 3G Chromebook. I'm bringing chargers for everything.
Yeah.
Because I did bring my chargers last year, but trying to fit your charger into your jeans pockets, not worth it. Plus, whenever I get something, I don't plan on getting a lot from like the stores or whatever, but it's nice to have the bag there.
Yeah.
And my 3DS, obviously, street passing it up. I wonder if ours are connected already.
I don't know. I don't think mine's on, to be honest.
Mine is blue. I don't.
It should be green.
Yeah, it's usually green if it street passes with somebody.
Oh, we can do that later.
All right. Well, it's been an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a great idea.
I think it was too. We should maybe try it again tomorrow.
Yeah. I don't want to interrupt anybody's stream though, so we'll have to play it by ear. I mean, I do want to apologize for the surprise announcement for this, but we got the idea basically on the way home. It was your idea.
Yeah.
And I was like, you were kind of thinking we'll just record it using your camera and then we'll upload it later. But I figured I have my computer here. We'll do it live. I think this is pretty good. I wish we had more interaction with people. I wish Hangouts on Air allowed public broadcast. That's a real stupid blunder that it doesn't. Oh well. I thought Google Plus could actually be useful for something, but I was proven wrong. Oh well.
Well, at least tomorrow night we'll have a little bit more to kind of discuss.
Right. And I think tomorrow night we'll try and have more interaction with the shout box. Plus, I think more people will be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
They're wondering where we are. We're in deep under the Arctic Ocean. Dr. Evil's Lair number 4. They should make another Austin Powers movie. Maybe. I like the second one the best. The third one was...
I think that style of humor's just kind of died off.
Yeah.
Between all the, like, scary movies and those movies.
I also don't think there's material there. I mean, how would they make fun of Daniel Craig Bond? Like, how would they...
Yeah.
It was much easier to lampoon, the old, over-the-top, kind of Bond movies. Whereas there's not much to make fun of,
Daniel Craig's too serious.
Yeah.
He doesn't deal with your shit.
Yeah.
He'll beat it out of you.
Mm-hmm. Skyfall was really good.
Skyfall was good. It's a very different Bond movie.
It was. There's a lot of plot holes in it, which I get that people are pissed about, but I thought it was beautifully shot, and I thought I liked the story arc, even if it did kind of take elements from Dark Knight Rises, and I don't think that was intentional, since the script for Skyfall was written years ago, like before MGM ran into financial troubles. They were like, hold up, stop making movies, we're dying here. And then they got back on their feet and made The Hobbit into 3 movies because cha-ching.
Has money.
I still haven't seen the first one.
It was alright. It was entertaining, and Martin Freeman's adorable as a Hobbit.
You mean Watson?
Yes, yeah. But it didn't really focus a lot on him. It felt like he starred in a movie that he didn't star in.
Right.
Because it focused a lot more on the dwarf shenanigans.
I got a feeling from the trailers that they were trying to make The Hobbit a lot more serious than it actually was in an attempt to recapture the Lord of the Rings.
No, it's still pretty whimsical.
Okay. I understood that the beginning was really whimsical, but, I don't know. I do know that, when the dragon shows up and starts wrecking shit, that things get more serious.
And that dragon in the second movie, played by Benedict Cumberbatch. Fuck yeah.
What is with him and playing villains, He's in the new Star Trek.
It's sexy, that's why.
I don't know. I think he looks kind of ridiculous in the new Star Trek, but I guess we'll see. I'm hoping that's a good movie. It has Abrams behind it again, and I was skeptical of the first Star Trek.
The first one was pretty good.
And it exceeded my expectations by leaps and bounds, because I had low expectations for it. Whereas this one, I know it's being written by the Transformers guys, and a lot of the dialogue in the trailers has kind of reinforced that to me, so I'm hoping that the plot is really good, and just the blandness is limited to the script. Maybe. I don't know.
I think some of the action sequences looked a little over the top. A lot of explosions and destruction. But it's got Benedict in it, so that's all I'm really going to go see it for.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that. What else? He also plays a villain in Sherlock.
Huh. Well, I guess. He plays a douchebag.
He is a douchebag in Sherlock. But Watson's awesome. Is he in anything else? I thought I saw him in something else recently.
I know he did a couple, like, small films. Um, he's won a couple awards. He's been on a couple of, like, those, like, pop culture, nerdy kind of shows.
Mm-hmm.
There's one in England. I can't think of the name at the
Yeah,
moment.
the
Nerdist or something?
Nerdist isn't the England one, but he might have been on that. Maybe it was the England one.
Type of setting he's been on.
What's the one that they were always pimping during Doctor Who, where it has like the gay host? You know what I'm talking about? Had like everybody from Doctor Who on it, everybody from every BBC show ever.
But that's the one I'm talking about. I don't remember what it's called.
Right.
It's like Richmond from IT Crowd was on it. David Tennant's frequently on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that talk show. But yeah. I remember sitting in the theater for, I think it was Avengers last year, and The Hobbit popped up, and I'm like, I'd seen the Hobbit trailer before, but I'd watched Sherlock in the meantime since seeing it again, and I was like, holy crap, that's Watson. You know, I thought that was cool. Smooth. Okay, so I'll be streaming live from the show floor tomorrow at 3:30, providing my phone battery doesn't die, and even if it does, I'll plug it into my laptop. Or I'll use my laptop. That's a webcam.
That'd be kind of awkward to kind of carry around that.
Actually, I don't think I can use that since that's Chrome OS. I could only use Hangouts anyways. I'll figure something out. Hopefully Steph will be there. Are you free at 3:30?
Let me see. Not calculator, calendar. Not camera, calendar.
Martin Freeman was in Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz.
He was in Shaun of the Dead?
What did he play?
I don't remember him. And no, I will not be free.
No.
I might. It depends on how long.
Well, I'll probably get Jules in front of the camera. We'll do it together Saturday. So.
No, I won't be free.
Okay. What about Saturday?
Saturday.
Are you using the guidebook app?
Yes. I'll go back.
Well, that's calendar.
Yes, I should be free Saturday.
Cool. So you'll see Kumi and I together again on Saturday. Tomorrow I might be with Jules Watcham from Renegade Kid. If you don't know who it is, you disappoint me greatly in my heart. You disappoint me because you haven't downloaded Mutant Mudds yet. Although, if you're waiting for the Wii U version, maybe I can understand. Because the Wii U version is going to have 20 extra levels, ghost levels.
Sure, that's what I'm waiting for.
Okay. What about, you haven't gotten Dimension 2. You haven't gotten ATV Wild Ride 3D. That's their latest release. It came out 2 weeks ago.
Why would I want that?
It's actually really fun. It's like, do you like Excite Truck?
No.
Okay. Well, it's kind of like an Excite Truck. You do, or the latest Mario Karts, where you do tricks and you get boosts. It's a generic racer, but it has online. It's an eShop game for $8. Has online. Maybe that's why you'd want it. And there's also Bomb Monkey, which I have to admit I haven't played that much. It's like it's really basic puzzler, which they were hyping up last year at PAX.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he didn't hype it up. I think he was stealth gathering feedback before he officially announced it, because he put it in my hands. His development 3DS with Bomb Monkey loaded on it. He put it in my hands, and I was like, okay, cool, some lame game or whatever. And he's like, yeah, that's the next game we're working on. I'm like, whoops. So I felt like a douchebag. But it's a really basic puzzler. The only thing is you might be interested in is that you hold it book style, and you can play local multiplayer on 1DS with one person on the face buttons on one side and one person on the D-pad on the other side, moving the blocks differently. It's kind of weird. Maybe we'll play it tonight.
Seems like it'd be kind of awkward to hold.
We'll play it in a second. I think that's it for their latest releases. I know they released Mutant Mudds on the iPhone and PC. But yeah, I hope their FPS will hook you back in. Yeah.
Stop at the booth. Check it out.
All right. Okay. I think we're going a little overtime. We're both really tired.
Mm-hmm.
I got like 3 hours of sleep last night. You probably got less, right?
I had a fairly decent amount.
Well,
I've just been up.
She was on a plane too, so you have to factor that into things.
Even though there was no time change, it's still draining for some reason.
South Carolina's still on the East Coast?
Yeah.
I think I knew that because...
How do you geography?
I knew that because you said something on the site that made me realize we were in the same time zone.
Maybe the fact that I told you that we were in the same time zone.
Maybe. Anyways, good night, everybody. I'll see you at 3:30 tomorrow. Steph, we'll see you probably Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
if not tomorrow night.
Maybe tomorrow night. We'll see if anybody actually shows up to stream while we're away from the site. So, I was going to say Ryan and Steph, keep the site going. But I guess Ryan, if you're watching, this is all up to you. You're the only moderator who's going to be online tomorrow. So yeah.
Don't go crazy, guys.
Yeah. Don't go crazy with power like certain other forums who have spun off from G4, who shall not be named. I can't believe how many times this happened. Like, Spooky Link, like, yet another one in the thread that I had no idea about that it happened to. Oh, man. Anyways.
E-power goes to your head.
Yeah, except if you're cool like us. Although it did go to my head for a little bit. I do feel bad about banning Matt, AR Final, over... We were having, like, an argument about Guitar Hero versus Rock Band. And he was being kind of a jerk about Rock Band always being superior to Guitar Hero no matter what. Even though the last couple... Guitar Hero 5 was really good, I thought. Anyways, I feel bad about banning him for that. I'm trying to not ban people much from now on.
That's probably a good idea.
Right. No matter how heated the argument gets. And even people like Trish and Gamer98, I think...
You know they can still hear us, right?
Right. I don't think they're the type of people to watch the stream. If they are, I'm just saying... You add something to the forum. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I do know the place is less homogenized with you there, right?
Sure.
Like even having a dissenting opinion is sometimes worth having around. We'll see how that works out, but don't go crazy, like crazy trollish, you know. Anyways, we're tired, so...
He's delusional. I didn't say anything. I totally missed.
Yeah, I should invert this so it's actually like a mirror.
I think it's time for bed or whatever.
Yeah.
Time to chill.
Bye, guys.
See ya.